Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are once again filming in Bamberg in Franconia in the northern part of Bavaria here in Germany. A very famous beer city. Of course Franconia is famous for having, you know, the highest density of breweries per head of population anywhere in the world. It's a very famous beer region here in Germany. But for this one we are going to review another beer from one of the famous Bamberg breweries, and I don't think I've actually ever reviewed a beer from this one on the channel. So very much looking forward to this review. So for this one we're going to review my first beer from Mahrs Bräu, and this one is their ETA, and this is a Dunkel lager beer. So if you watched the channel before you will know this is one of my favourite German beer styles. Of course I kind of credit this to Peter the Clueless Drinker, who reviewed the Augustiner Dunkel beer a few months back, and that really got me back into the Dunkel lager beers. So this is one that I was very excited to review when I came across it in the Getränkemarkt. So, you know, if you find that a Dunkel beer, one of my favourite styles from Bamberg, which is one of the most famous beer cities, I think this one is going to be a pretty special beer. My good friend Daniel, who I'm staying with at the moment, he told me that this is one of his, this is a brewery that he really likes, and of course, as I've told you before, he was the one who really got me into craft beer by introducing me to Schlenkerla and things. So really looking forward to this beer, and as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one of my favourite traditional German beer styles. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Mahrs Bräu. Like I said, first time reviewing one of these beers as far as I can remember. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Mahrs brewery. So for this one, the Mahrs brewery actually dates back to the 16th century, and it can be found in the Wunderberg district of Bamberg. It's actually very close to the Caseman brewery, who you saw me review the pills from a few videos back. So the Wunderberg area is a little bit to the south of the Hauptbahnhof here in Bamberg, the main train station. But in 1541, Hans Ziegler bought a property that became known as the Ziegelhütte, and there's also a record of a company that was a brewery and inn from 1602 that was owned by Petrus Zweidler, and these two companies are quite interrelated from what I understand, although this brewery and inn was later destroyed in 1650 during the 30 Years' War. But the brewery was then mentioned again in records in 1670, and then in 1683 there's also mention of a brewery being rebuilt under the name Ziegelhütte at their current location in Wunderberg in Bamberg. But the brewery was then under the stewardship of the Steinfeld family from 1716 to 1798, and then Caspar Eberlein took over the leadership of the brewery after he married Regina Steinfeld, and then he built a new brewery once again in 1826. So the brewery was then passed to the husband of his daughter before it was bought by Karl Marr in 1840, but the brewery was then acquired by the Michel family, who bought the Falsenkeller on the Stephansberg Hill back in 1895. The Michels demolished the original brewery building in 1908 and then replaced it with a brick building which actually holds a preserved status from the city of Bamberg today. But the heavy investments in this brewery really took their toll, and eventually the company was declared bankrupt, and then the brewery was then bought back again by Elisa Michel in 1913, who in turn passed it on to her sons Albert and Wilhelm, and they later passed it on to Ingmar in 1971. But the brewery has been run by Stefan Michel since 2016. So over the last kind of 100 years or so, basically, this brewery has been in the Michel family, and it's passed down the different generations. So like many breweries in Germany, this one has a really nice kind of family heritage to it. And I have to admit, that's one thing that I always find really cool when you read about the histories of these German breweries. They always seem to just pass them down the families. There seems to be a great tradition in Germany of passing businesses down the family, even if the And it's always kind of cool as well, even if the family, if the business passes to a daughter, they do tend to maintain the different names and things like this. So I think that is also another thing that's very, very cool about these little breweries in Germany. It's cool to see that family businesses do tend to hold quite a high standing in society here. But yeah, the Mahrs Bräu is one of the famous Bamberg breweries, and they do some pretty damn good beer from what Daniel was telling me. As I told you before, Daniel was the one who really got me into beer by introducing me to Schlenkerla and things, and it's really cool to be here in Bamberg and be able to review some of the other local Bamberg beers that they've got. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Mahrs Bräu just now. And if you want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook, you can check them out on Instagram and things like that. But let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a Dunkel beer. This, in terms of ABV, it comes in at 5.0%, and this one apparently was brewed originally as a limited edition to celebrate the 200th anniversary of ETA Hoffmann, and it proved to be quite a popular beer, so they brought it back once again. So yeah, interesting this. Like I said, this is one of my favourite German, traditional German beer styles. And that, of course, started with Peter, the clueless drinker, reviewing the Augustiner Dunkel, which was a very, very nice beer. I reviewed that not all that long after him. So yeah, cool to review another one, especially from one of these famous Bamberg breweries. So there you can see, there's the nice Mahrs Bräu symbol on this one. I do like the bottle cap on this as well. It's actually like a plain black bottle cap, but they've stuck a little bit of plastic or something on the top of this. I do wonder if they make these bottle caps in-house, but just look at that. Very nicely presented, that one. But yeah, it says on the back, it tells you a little bit about ETA Hoffmann on the back here. This beer was brewed back in 2008 to celebrate this anniversary. So it's actually, this recipe, they've kept this beer going for 10 years. But it says Mahrs Bräu Bamberg GmbH Wunderberg 10 96050 Bamberg. So yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. From what I understand, Mahrs Bräu have changed their labels within the last couple of years as well. These are one of the more kind of modern labels, I guess you could say, from the breweries in Bamberg, but a very, very highly regarded brewery, and I'm glad I'm able to review some of their beers for you here on the channel. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Like I said, a 5% Dunkel style beer, this one. Oh, does this, there we go, doesn't want to open originally, so yeah, you can see a little bit of smoky opening on this, and then we'll get it out and into the glass. And again, this is something that I should point out, because Daniel was telling me that because of all the craft beer movement and things that's going on in Germany, the Dunkel beer, from what I understand, is a style that's more associated with Munich. So it's quite unusual, I guess, for a Bamberg brewery to do this style of beer, and the fact that one of the local Bamberg breweries does this is a sign that times are changing, because a lot of the breweries now, even up until recently, the likes of Schlenkerla and things, they didn't have a Weiss beer and stuff like this. They were just brewing lager beers, but because of this whole kind of craft beer boom, if you like, even the traditional breweries are starting to do different styles. So I thought that was pretty cool, actually. But as you can see with this one, it's poured a nice, I would say that's quite a dark mahogany, almost ruby colour that you're getting out of this beer. There's a solid finger of a frothy, slightly beigey tan head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall, it does look pretty nice, I have to say. I'm really, you know, it looks pretty much as you would expect from a nice German Dunkel. I'm just checking how well you're seeing the colour of this one on the camera there, but you can see lovely dark mahogany, almost chestnut coloured out of this beer. So pretty much in terms of appearance, it looks exactly as you would expect from a nice kind of Munich Dunkel style beer, although I'm not sure if it's entirely correct to call this a Munich Dunkel beer, because it is from Franconia, of course. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Ooh, yeah. Lovely smelling beer, this. When you sugar the beer up, you start to get these nice roasty caramel malts out of this one. Of course, the German Dunkel is quite a light, easy drinking beer, but it's just got a little bit more of a malty presence to it. The Helles, of course, is a little bit more of a bready beer, and not quite as sweet and caramelly and things like that. A little bit more hoppy sometimes as well. But for me, this one's got a lovely brown bready characteristic to it. You can definitely pick up that nice brown German, almost pumpernickel bread kind of note out of this beer. Almost a little bit of a slightly woody note, maybe even a little tinge of nuts coming out of this one, but mainly a nice kind of brown bready malt base to it. A little bit of biscuit, a little bit of sweeter caramel in there, and these lovely kind of noble hop notes coming out of this. A little bit of earthiness, a little bit of floral quality in there as well, and a bit of lighter grassiness, and just a little touch of like a kind of red candied fruit, or a little touch of raisiny notes or something like that. Figs maybe even is another good descriptor of this. I'd say actually figs going by the aroma in this beer. But when you sugar this one up a little bit, the grainy notes from the bread, I think, are really prominent. It's got a nice sweet, grainy, brown bready note to it, this beer. It's almost got a little touch of a kind of cakey presence to it as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. As I always say, it's always half the experience when it comes to craft beers and sakes and whiskies and things like this. Just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But this one smells really nice. Overall, the aroma for this one, for me, it leans towards that bready, caramelly side of things. There's not too much of a hoppy or fruity presence in terms of this one. It really is more about the malts and it's really more about the malts and a little bit of that nice bready note out of this one. But it smells very nice, pretty much as you would expect for a Dunkel beer. It's not anything surprising in terms of the aroma, but it should be very, very nice. So without further ado then, let's get stuck into this one. So this one is the ETA Dunkel beer from Mahrs Bräu, one of the famous Bamberg breweries here in Bamberg in Franconia, northern Bavaria in Germany. So let's get stuck into this one then. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, that's a nice beer, this one. This one, just going by the flavours that I'm getting out of it, it's a little bit more roasty and bready in comparison with some of the other ones that I've had. Daniel and I drank the Dunkel beer from Göller the other day, and again, that one for me was a little bit more roasty. It had a little bit more of an almost black malty presence to it, in comparison with some of the ones that I've drank from Munich before. The Augustiner Dunkel, of course, being the obvious example, and the Tegensee Dunkel is another one that comes to mind. But for me, this one, it definitely has a little bit more of a black malty presence, which isn't quite what I was expecting, but at the same time, it's not roasted and black in the same way that you might get from a Schwarzbier. It's more kind of along the lines of, you know, if you have like a well-fired bread roll, it's kind of the roasty presence in it is a little bit more like that, I would say. But yeah, for me, this one is, as I was saying in the aroma, lovely, nice kind of brown bready quality to the flavour in this one. You can just feel that blank at the middle of your palate. For me, there is, as I say, there's almost a little touch of a roasted black malt presence to this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they've added just a little tiny bit of that roasty malt presence in there, but that gives the beer overall this nice roasty quality to it. As I say, it has a little touch of an almost Schwarzbier. If you want to talk about it in the Czech beer terms, it's got a little bit of that kind of tmavy presence to it as well, but it still retains that sort of typical German Brauhaus smoothness to it. I really like how this one goes across, and it's interesting to think that these Franconian Dunkel beers, they do tend to have just a little bit more of a roasty presence to them. Of course, the other thing could be that when I've been drinking the likes of the Augustiner Dunkel and things like that, it might well be that these beers are just a little bit fresher or something like that. I'm not sure. But I do generally find the ones from Franconia to be a little bit more roasty in their flavour profile than the ones from southern Bavaria. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that, actually. But yeah, lovely kind of brown bready base to this one, a little bit of roasted malt in there. Right in the centre of your palate, you've got a nice sweet caramelly note to this beer. The brown sugars in this one, it's got an almost syrupy brown sugar feel to it, but there's a little bit of a roasted character in there as well, which is very, very nice. And as you go further into the aftertaste, I'm finding that just kind of smooths out a little bit. As you go out from the centre of your palate, you can feel some of the roasty qualities of this beer just pushing their way out a little bit more. There's maybe a little touch of an almost biscuity quality to this one as well. But overall, the malt base in this one I think is very, very nice. Definitely a little bit more roasted and toasty compared to some of the other Dunkel beers that I've had before. But nonetheless, very, very nice beer, this one. I like how everything kind of goes together in it. But yeah, again, it's a really nice beer, this one. I'll just say straight away, in terms of how good this beer is, I'll give it a big thumbs up. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again, and this is a style that as I say, I really, really enjoy when it comes to German traditional beer. And when you come a little bit further forward on the palate on this one, there is a little touch of an almost woody flavour to this one, and as you go further into the aftertaste, it maybe evolves a little bit just to become a little bit more nutty. But in the back corners of the palate, there's a nice little bit of earthy bitterness there. That just smooths out as you kind of come further forward along the tongues. Nice little bit of an almost floral quality at the front corners of the palate, then it smooths out and becomes a little bit more grassy around the very front curve of the palate. But then as you go behind the front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit oily. It's got a little bit of that nice juicy, oily, fruity quality that you expect from pretty much any beer style that you get. So let's see what the fruity notes in this beer are like actually. Yeah, for me, this beer's got a very nice kind of it's almost it's quite a it's got a little bit of a figgy note to it, but it's got a kind of candied red fruit quality to it as well. So when you just go behind the front curve of that palate there, behind those kind of grassy esters that you've got at the front, you can pick up there's a little bit of that kind of figgy, slightly red fruity quality. The fruity note on this one, it's got no real sharpness to it. It's just a little bit of a kind of juicy fruity quality to this one. For me, there's a little bit of a figgy presence there, and as you go further into the aftertaste with this one, you start to get a little bit more of a slightly candied red fruity ester out of this beer, which is really nice actually. I like how all of these different fruity flavours go together in this one, but the whole beer is just very, very well balanced. And as I say, overall, in terms of my experience of the German Dunkel, this one is just a little bit more roasty and toasty in comparison to some of the others. It almost has that kind of underlying flavour of like a well-fired breakfast roll that we would have in Scotland. Just you've got this, I don't know how that would relate to Germans right enough, because they're not used to well-fired bread, if I'm remembering correctly, but in Scotland we eat these breakfast rolls. You cut them open, put bacon or sausage or whatever in, but it almost just reminds me a little bit of a well-fired bread crust, this beer. It really is very, very nice, and I like that with these beer styles, how you can go to different regions of Bavaria or whatever and you just see they've got a little bit of something different to them. I like that, how beer is pretty much very regional in Germany. But this is an absolutely beautiful Dunkel beer. I'm saying Helles beer. It's an absolutely beautiful Dunkel beer, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. If you like your Dunkel beers to be a little bit more roasty and toasty, have a go at this one from Mahrs Bräu, one of the famous Bamberg breweries, of course. In terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely mid-bodied. Carbonation, I would say, is fairly smooth in this one. Yeah, I would say carbonation, very, very smooth, mid-bodied beer. Mouthfeel overall, I think, is quite oily on this one. It is quite an oily Helles beer, that, and it's Helles beer, Dunkel beer. Brain's not working. It's quite an oily Dunkel beer, this one, and it's quite interesting that when it's a little bit more oily, you'd expect it to be more sweet. But those roasty notes that I was talking about earlier really do come out quite nicely. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness to this one, but I'd say you'd be lucky if this beer is pushing 30 IBUs. Great balance in the malt base between that nice roastiness and sweetness. The roastiness, I think, pushes its way out a little bit more the further into the aftertaste you go, but the beer is well balanced with a little bit of fruity quality as well. But overall, it's yet another awesome traditional German beer, and I'm really glad that I got to review this one for you here on the channel. It's really cool to review these traditional Bamberg beers when I'm actually here in Bamberg visiting my friends, so I hope you're enjoying this little Bamberg mini-series that I'm able to do for you. But let's leave it at that for this one. The ETA, a Dunkel beer from Mahrs Bräu here in in Bamberg in Franconia in northern Bavaria in Germany. An absolutely beautiful example of a Dunkel beer, a little bit more roasty and toasted compared to the other ones that I've had before. So do let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. Let me know what you actually think about the kind of northern Bavarian Dunkels in comparison to the southern Bavarian ones. I find the northern Bavarian ones tend to be a little bit more roasty toasty than the southern Bavarian ones, which tend to be a little bit sweeter. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on that. But for me, an absolutely beautiful beer. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Mahrs Bräu as well. Really cool to review another one of these traditional breweries for you, and I will catch you soon with more beer reviews. The ETA Dunkel beer from Mahrs Bräu here in Bamberg, Franconia, northern Bavaria, Germany. Until the next time, it's Lanza just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål, Prost. Make sure you try some of these lovely Dunkel beers and the lovely Bamberg beers. Prost.